Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. We're joined by Aaron Passfield, who's the Head of Procurement at HammondCare. Welcome, Aaron.
Thanks, Sean.
And we're also joined by Jussi Karjalainen, who is the founder and managing director of Voltstech Software. Welcome.
Thanks, Sean. Happy to be here.
And welcome everybody who's on the call. So, and I've seen the registration list. We've got a good number of people from all around Australia. So welcome to you all. And just a reminder, this is a live session. So everybody is able to ask questions in the session. And you can do that by typing your question into the chat box at the bottom of the screen. And we'll aim to answer those. If we don't get to all the questions, the team at Voltstech will come back to you with those answers. But if you can put them into the chat box, we'll aim to answer those questions today. And you're welcome to even have a practice. If you want to just type in the town or the city that you're in, you can do that and just get used to how the system works. So obviously we're here today to talk about how HammondCare made the move to migrate its procurement and invoice into the cloud, and that's something that is still ongoing, and we'll go into that in a minute. But it's obviously tied into some big changes the sector's going through with moving to a digital first approach, and that's in line with recommendations from the Royal Commission as well. The journey that I suppose HammondCare took, you can see it on the screen here, and we might even just start with you, Aaron, if you could just give us a little bit of an overview of what you've done. I mean, you've done this, it looks to be in a very short space of time. And as we all know, there's a lot going on, not just in aged care, but in the business community in general, not to mention the wider community. If you just give us a little bit of an overview of what you've done, to bring this about in such a short period of time.
Yeah, sure. So look, it was an accelerated implementation. We were coming from a bit of an advantage as we did have an existing system, a P2P system in HammondCare, but very old and very outdated. So yeah, we were very organised with the likes of a partner, Baltotech. It made it a lot easier with their experience in Cooper, our new solution, and the old one, the incumbent system. They had experience in both, so they're understanding our processes and our most importantly, sort of the integration points that we needed to be cut over. So yeah, so the core P2P was go live was the 1st of January, and then we're now going through implementing all the additional modules with expenses that we're working on that now, and then we'll eventually get to sourcing and the contract module.
Okay, and Jussi, your business played a fairly key role in this implementation, and your e-invoicing system complements the Cooper system. So, I mean, I think you offered not just the invoicing component, but you very much work very closely with HammondCare to implement this. Just tell us a little bit about just the approach you took in doing that.
Yeah, definitely, Sean. So look, our role primarily was to assist HammondCare on identifying and understanding what business requirements should transition and in what way should they transition into the new product. So we were responsible for running the solution design sessions, getting the core HammondCare team members into these sessions and really identifying and knocking down the business requirements and how those transition into the new version of the software. In addition to that, of course, we play an important role on just integrating the backend systems with HammondCare's new product. So in HammondCare's case, their IT team was quite ready with the pre-existing integrations from the last platform or previous platform. So obviously working with the IT team to transition those integrations and whatever new components there'd be into the new was also an important part. And generally, just working through, even on the change management side with Aaron and the team on what could the phasing of a project like this look like. Not everything needs to go live straight away, and it may be too ambitious to try and do everything under the sun in a very short period of time. And I think what they've done they've done a really smart decision actually here is to phase not just the technology implementation, because it's a project like this is not as technical as you would think, but primarily phase that change management also in their organization, so that the true sort of a combination of people, process, and technology transitions at the same time. So yeah, we were the core implementation partner, and continue being throughout rolling this out.
I'm not too sure if it's too early to say, but Aaron, what's been the most impactful change already? I mean, can you pinpoint now something that has happened that you just feel has, radically transformed everything? What would that be?
One of the major changes is the way we onboard suppliers and sort of the compliance piece that comes with that now. Before it was, I guess there was limited sort of compliance in that space. So now we use Cooper's supplier portal to onboard all suppliers, where they have to go through a process of completing a customized form, and that way they can also manage going forward all their information. If it needs to be updated, it doesn't need for them to contact our AP team. So that's it just keeps a good level of compliance.
And I imagine fraudulent invoices. I mean, I know a lot of providers have had issues and probably continue to have issues with fraudulent invoices. This would pretty much eliminate that, wouldn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. It's good because I mean, there's through the portal that the supplier can also load up their invoices from a PO. So once they receive a PO, they can flip that into invoice, and it comes straight into our system, and it matches and gets processed a lot quicker and easier than it traditionally does.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned the people element earlier. I mean, to get buy-in across the company to roll this out, I mean, how difficult or how did that go?
Look, we were well organised. We had, we set up super users. So we had key personnel within each facility. So yeah, look, I mean, the good thing is we were coming from a space where they were already using a system. So we weren't coming from a paper-based process. So that was a great advantage. But look, they welcomed it. It was a nice, fresh new interface, and sort of the approval change and the flows of invoices and POs were a lot smoother and a lot easier to manage. So it was all well accepted.
So the process now, perhaps even sort of fast forwarding a little bit to October when this is fully rolled out, the end-to-end process when somebody purchases something all the way through to the whole process. I mean, just explain that very briefly. How that has changed.
It's changed in a way where I guess from the very start, it's the interface. It's a lot more friendly. It's a lot more what people are used to if they were sort of to go online and shop now. It's more like the Amazon experience. There's a lot more images and the availability of products that they can see across all our catalogs. So it identifies that they can select the correct product in their purchase order. So it's helped with accuracy and that sort of things. You have full visibility of the approval flow. So within your PO, you can see depending on the delegations and the amount of the invoice, where it flows to. So you have full the user has full visibility of that, so it makes it a lot easier. And then the sort of the invoice processing and AP side is a lot more automated. So we have we use the Valtech scanning solution, and then that automates the matching of the to the PO, and then once it's all completely matched and received, it goes into an approval state, which then just flows onto.
Yeah, and Josie, I mean, you could probably speak to some of the security that comes with this. I mean, there's been, I mean, Inside Agents certainly reported on it, as have other media, some of the incidences in aged care where there has been data breaches and, you know, data security, IT security issues. I mean, this system, I'd imagine, is fairly secure. Is that right, Josie?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I know that's quite topical these days. I think a major benefit on going and making a source to pay platform decision and going ahead with a very sort of established reputable provider like Coupa is that they truly deliver a sort of a bank grade security. You know, it's all locally hosted in Australia by reputable providers, and they certainly got all the IT and security certifications to back up their credentials in terms of where, you know, how data is being held in transit, how it's been saved, stored, and so forth. So that certainly is I'll say they certainly don't take that very lightly. So it's a major component of implementing anything where your data sits in the cloud, really.
Mm. I mean, probably the next question, this is a question that I think most aged care operators want to know is, you know, return on investment and savings. I mean, probably Aaron, to start with, I mean, can you pinpoint already what sort of cost savings this automation will bring for the business?
A little bit too early to sort of give sort of numbers yet, but it's just through sort of the features that Coupa have, like Spend Guard, where it's sort of reducing that, you know, gives you alerts on duplicate invoices and any sort of fraudulent activity. That's been a great help to us so far. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And Josie, as far as you know, managing spend, I mean, and sort of what Aaron said there, do you play an ongoing role with this, or is it more your business helps with implementation and then you, I suppose, hand over the reins to the client? Is that how it works, or do you stay involved?
Yeah, look, we certainly will stay involved especially on the invoicing side and support side of all of that. It's an ongoing in nature in fact. We certainly continue working with HammondCare. I mean they're looking to deploy quite a lot of technology to automate their processes within a reasonably short period of time, I would say. And I think there'll be sort of an ongoing improvement and enhancement that we'll be working on going forward. But just John, one comment on the savings side, which I think is quite important to understand, is that typically solutions like this, you know, will deliver savings or return of investment in two sort of areas. One, which is typically the first area, is just the automation and optimization of processes that happens as a result of implementing technology into the right process, and that's, you know, that saving is largely, you know, ensuring that the operational stuff, you know, whether it's residential home, you know, managers that are buying goods and services for the home, or whether this is potentially, you know, accounts payable personnel, you know, on the AP side. Usually that part is kind of the first element of optimized and cost saving, as in, you know, not needing to spend 15 minutes per invoice anymore, but that time goes right down to probably minutes, if not even less than that. But once that sort of a process and operational side has been covered, the major piece that's next is and this is largely driven by how the change is managed. But the second phase really is once the spend is under management, what type of decisions the customer then makes around optimizing, potentially consolidating suppliers, negotiating better contracts and so forth, now that the visibility into where the money is being spent has been gained. So it kind of goes in phases like that, sort of phase one operational, phase two more spend related.
Yeah. In fact, I know you wrote an article for us, I think it may have even been last year. And one of the, I'm going from memory here, so you might have to correct me, but one of the lines or one of the comments you had in your article was that, you know, we all know that aged care providers are under pressure with, you know, finance and you know, managing costs and ultimately trying to make a profit. We all know that. But I think you used the line in your article, Jussi, that, you know, the costs are one thing, that's the one certainty that a provider has. They can really drill down on that and really scrutinize and ultimately better manage their costs. And it really struck a chord with me, because I think, I mean, that's ultimately what you're doing here, isn't it? That's the end game, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, what I was trying to really touch on in the article previously, and we have a lot of conversations around this, is that in times like this, you know, making that extra dollar via sales can be quite hard. You know, we have a challenging sort of economic situation playing out right now. What's certainly in control of every organization is where do they then decide to spend their money. So you know, getting visibility into where the money is being spent, with what type of suppliers, what sort of services, what triggers that demand in, let's say, residential homes, or the ability to compare residential home A to residential home B and see why there's a difference in, you know, why there's a delta between what they're spending on different categories. You know, all these type of insights really empower the organization to work more efficiently with their suppliers, and that's certainly much easier, I view, to control through good procurement practice than aiming for a larger sales figures.
Yeah, and also, sorry, I'll just jump in there. It's also knowing what you've spent. So with Cooper, we also use the budgeting tool. So it gives you an idea live on each purchase of what sort of your sort of budgets are left within that cost center. It's a good tool as well.
I'd imagine that you'd be updating that. I mean, how often do you scrutinize that budget? Is that a daily, weekly, monthly type of exercise to go through and scrutinize that?
Yeah, look, we report on it monthly. There's also the feature to allows you to, if it is a spend, it is over budget, it goes to the next, it goes up to the next line manager, so they get visibility of it as well. So they're just they're very informed on sort of their decisions, and that's what it comes down to. That they can make the decision, they have all the information in front of them.
I mean, the approval process, I mean, I think you're across what, 60 or 70 sites in 3 states, I think, Aaron, and home care, residential, community. I mean, the approvals, this must really, I suppose, make your life easier. But I think for each individual facility, it probably helps them a lot to get things approved quickly. Is that what's happening already?
Yeah, certainly. Look, they have their they have a certain threshold where so they can purchase them, so self-approval limit, and then obviously anything above that they see who it's going to. They have full visibility, has little icons underneath, and who it's waiting for to approve. It does increase the sort of the efficiency of it all.
Okay. We've had a few questions asked in I suppose pre-moderation. So we had these are some of the questions we've already gone through, and I think we've answered most of them. This slide deck, everybody who's on the call, I just had a quick look. We've got 20 or so people who are on the call, which is great. And this slide deck will go to everybody that's on the call and those that have registered that maybe didn't make it. So you'll have all of this information, and plus, you know, you'll be able to ask questions, not just during the session, but if you have questions afterwards, the Voltatech team can help with that. I might just go to some of the questions we had asked when people registered, and we've got a lot of providers on the call who want to know some of these questions. So the first one, which maybe starting with you, Jussi, how does this system work for a company that's a lot smaller than say HammondCare? Is it scalable, basically?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and we hear that quite often. Look, the license pricing for a solution like this certainly scales depending on the revenues of the organization, the number of users, and so forth. So it does fit very well, smaller organizations as well, and same thing with the implementation side. But the other thing that I did want to sort of touch on this particular point is that I view HammondCare as a very much of an innovation leader when it comes to implementing this sort of things and really taking the transformation journey quite seriously. Now, a lot of organizations don't have the same starting point than HammondCare had, right? They already had an existing P2P system in place, and whilst it wasn't completely fit for purpose and therefore justifying investment into something newer, they already had a starting point. A lot of organizations could be smaller than HammondCare, making a decision on something like this obviously don't have to buy the whole suite of products to address that. A lot of organizations could potentially just get started with the core procure to pay module without implementing expense or CLM or sourcing, and really getting started with that journey, and then make decisions later on how they want to enhance and expand that environment and make it better and more automated and more optimized. And obviously, every module comes with its own cost. So a good way for a smaller organization, in my view, to get started is to get the core and the basics right and get the procure to pay working, and from there on start expanding. Similar to what HammondCare did, but HammondCare did a little bit more in a shorter period of time, which was certainly ambitious, but it's aligned to their transformation goals.
Mm.
Okay. I mean, one of the questions there, I mean, I might just jump to this question now. I mean, some of the issues, I mean, this has been rolled out pretty quick. I mean, was there many issues in the rollout? Maybe starting with you, Aaron. I mean, did you find, especially with the fast turnaround on this, was there a few issues to work through?
Not really. I wouldn't say there was major issues. Look, change management is always challenging. And to sort of continue on to your first question there, an organisation that's a little bit younger or half the size of HammondCare, it's good to get those processes in early and have an organisation grow into a system like Cooper, where it is scalable and you can add the different modules. That's implementing a system when the organisation is of large, change is more difficult. Look, we had just the standard issues that anyone else would go through. Integrations are challenging. Just ensuring that you've thought of everything and the architecture is fine, and the configuration. And I think the key there is testing. Do as much testing as possible. You can never test enough, because you'll always find a situation where you've forgotten once you go live. But look, it's important to have a partner that understands all this and has that experience while you're going through these processes.
One of the questions that was asked when people registered was, allocating specific roles at a site level who could use the system, and I suppose the change management process. I know you touched on that earlier, but do you want to just tell us a little bit how that went? Because the people aspect of this is obviously very important.
Yeah, certainly. So we allocated a super user to each site, and then that came with a separate lot of training for them, and then so we adopted the train the trainer rollout. We also stood up, we created videos, so an online content of videos. We were doing this in sort of the pandemic time, and we couldn't get around and do a sort of a roadshow to each site. So videos and Teams training sessions is how we got through it all.
That's pretty ambitious. I mean, I can imagine, trying to do this, over Teams and video, it would have been pretty difficult. But in fact, there's a question that's come through here. I might even just go to it now because it's our first question. I don't know if you've seen it there, but it asks, did you implement Punch-Out XML, and for what use cases, please?
Yeah.
I mean, either one of you can answer that.
Yeah, we did. We have about 6 or 7 punch-outs. So they and for use cases, look, they're a lot more integratable. It's the information coming back is very accurate. It takes the need for my team to manage the catalogs. It's all managed obviously in there, the suppliers back end. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to that, Jesse?
Yeah. Look. I perhaps wanted to just add a definition of what punch out is, because a lot of the people on the call may not actually know what it is. So a punch out is a procurement request from a platform like Coupa into the supplier's website, where the user then can do shopping, or for whatever they're buying, and as part of the punch out return, the shopping cart from the supplier's e-commerce website comes back into HammondCare's procurement platform, where they then complete the shopping. So the benefit, like Aaron mentioned there, is that obviously in the case of punch out supported supplier, HammondCare no longer has to maintain any of the products or the catalogs themselves. It's based on the credentials that they use heading into the supplier's website. They effectively do shopping there. So supplier maintains the pricing, the product details, and so forth. And HammondCare implemented quite a few of the punch outs. And I think it's actually, it was a little bit of an insight for us how many suppliers we were able to find being able to support punch-out connectivity in general in the aged care space. Some other industries can't actually support, or some other supply chains can't support them as broadly as in the HammondCare did. And look, all of this really drives the ability to manage change and create content in the platform that's useful for the users. So combination of catalogs and punch outs truly deliver that value in the platform.
There's also a good feature that Coupa have, and it's called Open Buy. So for the user, really it sort of cuts down their searching time. So not having to sort of punch out to an individual supplier site to go and get that product. With Open Buy, you can use Coupa's search engine, and it searches across all the punch outs and just brings it back into one search engine. So for the end user, all they need to know is exactly what they want, and they just type it in, and it doesn't really matter where it comes from as long as it's the right item, and then they can purchase it. So it sort of cuts down the time and the knowledge that they know, for them to know where to sort of what supplier to get it from.
But that's interesting what you said there, Josie, that you found that a lot of suppliers to aged care had punch-out capability. That's really interesting. I mean, I know the cost-saving thing, it's been asked before, but I mean, that type of aspect would in time, I'd presume, save a lot of man hours and create a lot of efficiencies for the business. That seems to be fairly evident. I think I might have had another question there. Let me just check. Here we go. There's another questions come through, which we can go to. No, sorry, it's not a question. No. We'll keep going through the pre-moderated questions because there's a few to get through, and just let me go through them here. We had this one here about smaller suppliers, and I did notice, Aaron, I did do a little bit of research on your website. I can see the portal that you've got there for suppliers to log in, which looks to be quite easy. Is that just as easy for small suppliers, like as the question says, entertainers, small trades? Can they just easily log in and interact with that system?
Yeah, certainly. Look, we engage with a lot of small to medium businesses because of the nature of our home care, our community business. Look, and that goes all the way down to sort of sole traders and really small providers. So we were at some points we get invoices that are handwritten still. So this was a great tool for them to get away from sort of handwriting invoices, where it's very difficult to scan handwriting invoices. So now they log on, they type in sort of what the invoice, what service it was relating to, all the details, and then they submit it through the portal. And it comes to us obviously a lot easier and a lot cleaner than handwritten invoices. So, and the uptake's been really good for the small businesses. They find it quite easy. They can track where all the invoices are up to, the stage of them, the process of them, because it feeds that information back too. So there's no need for them to always call AP and say, when are we going to get paid? They have all that visibility within the portal.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, that's obviously a big concern for small businesses is payment terms. So again, I can see how that's going to create a lot of efficiencies. Josie, I was going to ask you. I mean, with other sectors, you work not just in aged care, but you work across other sectors as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So procure to pay and source to pay processes are not really industry specific or sector specific as such. Every company needs goods and services procured in order to deliver better service for their customers or deliver what they sell or deliver. So absolutely across industries.
And I mean, I know I'm going back on a question here, but it's been asked a few times, and I mean, trying to pinpoint return on investment, especially versus the cost of implementation. I mean, have you got a data set that kind of shows people what sort of savings they can expect over a period of time, through this sort of investment?
Yeah, we certainly do. So I think that's largely driven on what the starting point of an organization is. But generally speaking, businesses can accept sort of 1 to 2 year ROIs on solutions like this. But again, very much driven by what the starting point is. Okay,
right. Another question we've had here, I think you maybe even touched on it earlier, Aaron, compliance. I mean, that's a huge issue for providers. And as you can see there, somebody's asked about compliance, police checks, the health practitioner regulation agency, and others. I mean, managing that compliance. I mean, how much easier is this made it? And I'd imagine it does actually do all this for you. Is that right? The system?
Yeah. So on the onboarding process and in the portal, they with our customized form that we've created. There's areas where they update all their checks and insurances and all their certificates, and so they keeps them up to date.
Okay, great. I mean, we had another question here about integration with other systems, I suppose, and this might be one for you, Josie. For especially smaller providers, smaller aged care providers, where they might have a legacy system, an accounting system, for example. I mean, does Cooper integrate with other systems? Yeah, no, it definitely does. So Cooper has sort of a set of pre-built APIs that can talk to any other system, and what we do as part of our implementations, we've got an integration as a service product. So if we work with an organization that may not have an IT team that's ready to integrate, or they may not have sort of middleware or middleware solutions to run those integrations themselves, then we do the integration as part of the implementation. So that's been made quite straightforward. And look, the other thing is that with modern cloud-based systems that have ready built integration APIs, the implementation process for a solution like this is a lot less technical than it used to be sort of 4 or 5 years ago. So technology has come leaps and bounds from where it was just a few years ago in terms of how less technically complex a solution delivery like this is. So maybe just stay on that point for a little bit longer. So if we had for argument's sake, a single site residential aged care facility that didn't have the IT team that a bigger facility would have. They may only have one person, you know, or they may have really nobody. You could come in your business, Jussi, and really kind of do it all. So if you don't have the IT aspect covered, you can kind of bring everything along with what you bring. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely, that's right. And look, I mean, the normal sort of integration points, sort of at the bare minimum ones for a procure-to-pay process would be bringing in the suppliers across from the accounting system into the platform, so that you can start transacting against those, and then in addition to suppliers, so typical sort of master data elements, cost centers, GL account codes, project codes, and so forth, to make sure that the spend can be allocated against those sort of ERP or accounting system line items, and at the back of that, producing a file back into the accounting system, which they then use to make payments to the suppliers. So it's it generally has sort of a 3 or 4 integration points that are only required to create a sound procure-to-pay process. Now, of course, if you go much broader than that, and you sort of look at things like what Aaron and the team did, you know, around supply information management and supply onboarding process through the tools, then there are additional integrations that need to be built. But just for procure-to-pay, you know, those sort of 3 to 5 integrations is all that's required to get started.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions that have come through here, and there's one that sort of grabbed my eye here. I don't know if you can see it on the screen there, Aaron, but it's asking, Stuart Kent's asking whether the system's flexible, where it allows suppliers notice of expiry of a compliance document. Does the system do that?
I believe there is a notification in the supply portal. Jussi, do you have any more idea on that?
Sorry, I missed the question there, Sean. Can you go again?
Yeah, let me read it out again. It's and just these questions are without notice, so I do just to let people know we're sort of taking these live. So, is the system flexible in allowing suppliers 30 or 60 days notice prior to expiry of a compliance document?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think that's quite an important part of the system, especially with industries that are heavily regulated, and the suppliers need to usually put forward a lot of compliance-related information as they get registered as a supplier. So there's reminders, there's the ability to set expiry dates of the existing compliance documents, so that they'll get notified as they you know, kind of head towards the expiry of those. So yeah, certainly.
Great, thank you. A couple more questions again, just without notice, but we'll ask these live. But this is probably a fairly important question, and this might just be your elevator pitch, Jussi. How can a provider try and work out the business case for this? You know, what would be the simplest answer to that if you're considering a spend like this?
Yeah, in the world of procure-to-pay, the good news is that everything pretty much within the landscape is quantifiable, as in you can calculate what your return will be if you make certain decisions, and that certainly applies very much to procure-to-pay. So we actually, as an organization, we started from an advisory and helped organizations to identify business cases before we moved into implementations and integrations and so forth within this same domain. So we certainly have really good frameworks to work out what a business case should look like, and you know, how going heavier on change or less heavy on change, or more aggressive with functionally versus less aggressive functionally, you know, impacts that ROI calculation. So yeah, we can certainly help on that area.
Okay. I get another live question, and this might be best for you, Aaron. It's asking, do you have a complex rebate negotiated with suppliers? And I mean, if so, how does the system sort of help you with that, help you manage that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have complex. We do have rebates with suppliers, and we use the reporting services out of Cooper, and they're scheduled to send reports monthly to us, and that's how we handle gaining the rebates for our suppliers.
Okay. I suppose we're sort of getting towards the 40-minute mark. We do try to keep these webinars to, you know, under an hour, so we have a little bit of time left. Anything else you'd like to add, Aaron? I mean, you're sort of towards the end of this process now, maybe advice even. I mean, we've had, a lot of people register for this webinar, not just larger providers, but the smaller ones. I mean, any advice you can offer to anybody considering making a move like this?
Yeah, sort of. My advice would be just to find a solution that's fit for purpose for your business, but one that's fit for purpose today and the future. Knowing sort of make sure it's scalable, and it's aligned with your procurement strategy and sort of that maturity plan of where you want to get to. So for us, it was we wanted to be completely digital. Have my team have full digital experience through the sourcing and handling contracts as well, and obviously handling the core P2P. We also were we found Cooper to be more innovative than other solutions out there. There's a lot of other features like Cooper Pay, where that calls on virtual credit cards. So that's a great feature that we're going to be implementing as well. So yeah, it's finding what fits for your business, and sort of taking that time to explore it, and ensuring that you make that right decision.
Just on the credit card aspect, I mean, just tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that hasn't gone live yet, but it'll be part of the final implementation. Is that right?
Yeah, it hasn't gone live yet. We are implementing it now. So with Cooper Pay is where you can generate a purchase order, and once approved, that can call on a virtual credit card that you can purchase obviously online, something like that, or it can also be forwarded to the supplier, a credit card details, so they can just bill you, do the transaction straight away. The other feature too is you can also urgent payments, and you can allocate an invoice to be paid by credit card instead of the traditional method of sort of direct deposit or however you normally manage it. So yeah, it's a feature that we're really looking forward to. It's a feature that we will be, I think will provide our community side of purchasing a great deal of efficiencies, as it's pretty complicated as it's consumer driven. The client has the choice to purchase off any provider they want. So it's sometimes it can be a little bit challenging in that side of things to get a supplier sort of to be onboarded for a one-off invoice. So Cooper Pay allows you to engage with a supplier without having to onboard them. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to that.
That sounds really interesting. I mean, Jussi, I mean, is that a fairly unique aspect to the system, or not?
Look, it certainly is quite a unique functionality, and what I think it's really enabled HammondCare to do is rationalize their supply base. So instead of having to create a lot of these one-off suppliers that they may only be transacting once a year, or maybe once in 5 years, like if it's a one-off purchase, instead of having to go through the kind of the full end-to-end onboarding process, including compliances and that sort of things, they can still get the spend approved, and it can still go through the compliance of that particular purchase within the system, but not go through the kind of the red tape of a supply onboarding. So it makes it certainly very much more efficient and reduces that kind of a long tail aspect of supplier base in general.
Yeah, interesting. We're sort of getting towards the end, so just a final reminder to everybody on the call, to all of our guests. If you have any questions, we've got time for a couple more if you want to ask those. You're also reminded that the recording of today will be made available to everybody, and you'll be able to come back to Jussi directly if you have any questions that you maybe think of after this session has ended. So we'll be promoting this as a resource for the industry. So you will actually be able to also share the link with any of your colleagues that you might want to share this with, and they can download the recording at any time. It'll be live on our website as a free download. There's another question here. Yeah, this is sort of interesting. And we have had some people sign up from buying groups, cooperatives. So maybe this is for you, Jussi. Would the Cooper solution meet the use case, or would it suit a cooperative or a collective buying group that would be supplying multiple aged care providers?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Have to admit, it certainly does. I think it's a configuration aspect of the system on who is using the system, who can conduct buying, who is created as a requisitioner, approver, and so forth. And in case of a buying group, it would be a question of managing the right user roles that are able to transact, and then obviously as part of the buying group, their power would be to consolidate more supply spend and being able to negotiate larger volume discounts as they are bringing multiple sort of spend sources together. So certainly technology will support that. It would be a configuration question in terms of getting the users created and that group established as part of the config of the system.
Okay, thank you. And to the person who's asked that question, I realise that you've asked it anonymously, but as I said earlier, you'll be able to, because it sounds like it's a fairly complicated, it'd be a fairly complex, situation. So you're welcome to reach out to the team at Voltatech to get in touch. I'll share the recording with their details after this. So I suppose we're sort of at the end here, guys. I mean, we've got through most of the questions, I think. Thanks very much for taking part, and also thanks for agreeing to do this live and take these questions without notice. So you didn't have any time to really prepare for some of these, so thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sean, Aaron, and all the attendees.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and everybody on the call. I can see there's still quite a few people on the call, so thank you. And as I said earlier, you'll all receive a recording of today, and you'll be able to ask further questions as they come to you. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.